How to stop getting triggered forever. Self-awareness is the first step in the process of improving your well-being. To be self-aware, you need to be able to identify your feelings and emotions without judgment. Accepting your feelings and emotions is the second step in this process. You need to let go of any negative thoughts that are running through your head about what you feel and just accept it as a normal part of life. The final step in this process is improving your well-being by doing things that make you happy and avoiding things that don't make you happy. This will help you move forward with a clear mind, which will lead to improved emotional stability, better decision-making skills, and an overall better outlook on life. Why do we get triggered? Many people believe that the world is becoming more and more sensitive. People are getting triggered by things that they once didn't find offensive. This is a result of the world changing, and what we consider offensive or triggering is constantly evolving. The first step to understanding why we get triggered is to understand what it means to be triggered. To trigger someone means to cause an emotional response in them, usually anger or sadness, but it can also mean other emotions like frustration or amusement. It's important to note that being triggered doesn't necessarily have a negative connotation. Some people may be happy when they're triggered because they feel validated in their beliefs. What can we do to stop getting triggered? There are many things that trigger us. It can be a certain smell, a song, or even a person. There's no way to avoid all triggers, but there are ways to stop getting triggered. Some people find it helpful to journal their feelings and thoughts on the trigger. This helps them get it out of their head so they can move on with their day. Other people find it helpful to talk about the trigger with someone they trust who will listen without judgment and offer advice if needed. We should not feel guilty for being triggered by something because we don't have control over what triggers us, but we do have control over how we react when something does trigger us. How to identify and control our triggers. Identifying and controlling our triggers is not an easy task. It takes a lot of time and effort to figure out what we are most sensitive to. We need to figure out what we want and what we don't want in order to be able to control the triggers that might get us off track. We can use different techniques like meditation or mindfulness, but they only work if you have the right mindset. You need to be committed and ready for change. The true significance of being triggered. Trigger warnings are a way for people who have been exposed to certain types of trauma to prepare themselves before encountering it in their everyday lives. The concept of trigger warnings is not a new one, but the term was coined by American feminist and psychologist Dr. Judith Herman in her 1997 book Trauma and Recovery. In the book, she writes that triggering is an involuntary response to reminders of past trauma. She also asserts that the person who has been traumatized must come to understand his or her own reactions as a predictable response to an external event. The purpose of trigger warnings is not only to let people know that they may be triggered by something, but also give them time and space if they choose so. Conclusion: how to stop getting triggered forever. It is important to get a grip on your triggers if you want to stop getting triggered forever. If you are not aware of what your triggers are, it will be hard for you to avoid them. The first step in the process is to find out what your triggers are. This can be done through journaling, talking with friends or family, or by exploring the world around you. Once you have identified what your triggers are, it is time to come up with a plan for how to avoid them. You can create a list of places where your trigger might exist and then create an alternative route for when you need that type of place in order to avoid the trigger. You can also employ some breathing exercises or meditation techniques before entering any situation where there might be a trigger waiting for you.